When we moved into the house on Alder Street, the first thing I noticed wasn't the cracked driveway or the smell of damp wood in the basement. It was the park. It sat directly across the street, framed by crooked iron fencing and two dying oak trees that leaned toward each other like conspirators. The swings hung perfectly still, even when wind moved through the neighborhood. The slide was rusted along the edges. The paint on the merry-go-round had peeled into strange shapes that looked almost deliberate. The real estate agent had smiled when I asked about it. Families used to love it. Used to. That word should have stayed with me longer than it did. The first night in the house felt normal. Boxes stacked in corners, furniture half assembled, the usual exhaustion of relocation. My wife, Sana, fell asleep almost instantly. Our 7-year-old son, Hamza, complained about the unfamiliar creaks in the walls. "New houses talk," I told him. I was wrong. It wasn't the house that talked, it was the park. At exactly 12:43 a.m., I woke to a metallic creaking sound, slow, rhythmic, like something rocking back and forth. At first, I thought it was inside the house. Pipes. Maybe the old ceiling fan in the hallway. I lay still, listening, trying to place it. Creak. Pause. Creak. Pause. Then I realized the sound was too hollow, too open. It was coming from outside. I moved toward the window and pulled the curtain back just enough to see the street. The swings were moving. Not wildly, not dramatically, just enough. Back and forth, back and forth. There was no wind. The trees were still. The streetlights hummed quietly, casting pale orange pools of light on the pavement. But the swings moved like someone invisible sat there, gently pushing off the ground. I stood there longer than I should have, waiting, watching, expecting to see a teenager jump out and laugh, expecting logic to step in and explain everything. Nothing did. The swings slowed, stopped, and the silence that followed felt heavier than the sound. I told myself it was wind I couldn't feel. I told myself that because the alternative required imagination, and imagination is dangerous at night. 3 days later, the second incident happened. Hamza refused to sleep in his room. "There's a lady in the park," he whispered, crawling into our bed. Sana stroked his hair. "What lady?" "She stands near the trees," he said. "She's looking at our house." Children exaggerate. They confuse shadows for figures. They let dreams bleed into reality. I walked to the window again. Midnight had passed. The park looked empty, but something felt wrong. The shadows near the oak trees were thicker than the others, darker, more concentrated. I stared, waiting for my eyes to adjust. That's when I saw her. Not clearly, just the outline. A woman standing near the trunk of the left oak. Her head tilted slightly forward, her hair hanging down. Still, completely still. She was facing our house. I couldn't see her face. The streetlight behind her swallowed the details, but I knew she was looking at us. A strange certainty settled into my chest. I blinked. She was gone. No footsteps, no rustling leaves, just absence. I didn't tell Sana. I should have. The following week, the activity escalated. Every night after midnight, the swings began to move. Sometimes just one, sometimes all three. The merry-go-round would rotate slowly, metal grinding against rust. The slide gleamed faintly, as if moisture coated it, even when the air was dry. And every night, around 2:17 a.m., she appeared, always near the trees, always facing our house, always motionless. I started losing sleep, started snapping at small things. Sana noticed. "You're obsessing," she said one evening. "It's an old park. Things shift. Shadows play tricks." I wanted to believe her. Then Hamza drew a picture. It was the park, the swings, the trees, and the woman. But in his drawing, she wasn't standing near the oak. She was closer, on the sidewalk, just across the street. I felt something cold crawl up my spine. "Did you see her there?" I asked. Hamza nodded. "She comes closer every night." The next night, I didn't wait in bed. I sat in the living room with the lights off, staring through the blinds. 12:43 a.m. The swings began. Creak. Pause. Creak. But this time, something was different. They were moving higher, more aggressively, as if someone was pumping their legs, building momentum. The chains strained, metal shrieked softly. And then I saw her. Not by the trees, not at the edge of the park. She was standing at the gate, inside the fence, facing our house. Her head tilted at an unnatural angle, too far to the side. Her hair obscured her face, but I could see her dress now, long, pale, hanging loose like damp fabric. The swings were moving violently now, back and forth, but there was no one sitting in them. She lifted her head slowly, deliberately, and though I couldn't see her eyes, I felt them. They locked onto mine. My body refused to move. The air inside the house felt thick, compressed, the same pressure I'd felt the first night. Then she stepped forward, one slow step. The swings stopped instantly. Silence slammed into the street. She was no longer inside the fence. She was outside it. I hadn't seen her climb or open the gate. She was simply closer. I stumbled backward from the window. My heart pounded violently against my ribs. I forced myself to look again. She stood at the edge of the road now, halfway between the park and our house. Her head still tilted, her body slightly bent forward, like something mimicking human posture without understanding it. I grabbed the porch light switch and flipped it on. Light flooded the driveway. She vanished. Not walked away, not ran, vanished. I opened the front door. The night air was cold. Empty street, still trees, motionless swings. But something lingered, a faint smell, like wet soil, like something pulled from underground. The next morning, I walked to the park. Daylight made everything ordinary again. Children's laughter echoed from a distant street. Birds perched on the swings. But when I reached the oak tree, I noticed the ground beneath it. The soil was disturbed, fresh, as if something had been dug up or buried. I knelt and touched it, cold, damp. My fingers brushed against fabric. I recoiled instantly, heart racing. I didn't dig further. I didn't need to. I knew. That night, Hamza screamed. Not a cry, not a whimper. A scream that tore through the house. I ran to his room. His window was open. The curtains fluttered inward. He was sitting upright in bed, trembling. "She was inside," you whispered. My blood turned to ice. "What do you mean, inside?" "She was standing by the closet." I turned slowly. The closet door was slightly open. Darkness pooled inside it unnaturally, thicker than it should have been. The swings outside began to move again, even though I hadn't heard them start. Creak, creak, creak. closer, louder, as if the sound had followed us inside. The closet door creaked wider. I stepped forward, my body shaking. The air in the room grew heavy, pressurized, like something massive was breathing. And then I saw it. Not her, not fully, just her head, tilted, peeking from inside the closet. Hair hanging forward. Too much hair, too dark. Her body didn't move. Only her neck stretched unnaturally long, extending from the shadows. My mind broke for a second. I couldn't process the geometry. It wasn't possible. Her neck elongated slowly, joints popping softly, until her face was inches from mine. Her hair parted slightly, and I saw her eyes. They were empty. Not black, not white, just hollow, like depth without surface. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Instead, the swings outside stopped, completely. The silence that followed was suffocating. She leaned closer, and I smelled the soil again. Wet, rotting, ancient. Then she whispered, not in my ear, not in the room, inside my head. You live where I wait. The pressure intensified. My ears rang violently. Hamza was crying behind me. Sana was shouting from the hallway. I don't remember moving, but suddenly the lights were on. The closet was empty. The window was closed. The swings outside were still. We left the house the next morning, didn't pack everything, didn't say goodbye, just left. 3 days later, I drove back alone. I don't know why. Maybe to prove it wasn't real. Maybe to prove I wasn't losing my mind. The house looked smaller. The park looked ordinary. But as I stood on the sidewalk, something shifted in my vision. The oak trees weren't leaning toward each other anymore. They were leaning toward the house. And beneath the left oak, the soil had been disturbed again, wider, deeper, as if something had crawled back down, or something else had crawled up. I felt eyes on me. Slowly, I turned. The swings were moving, gently, back and forth, back and forth. No wind, no children, just motion. And then, everything stopped. No wind, no insects, no distant traffic, just silence. The kind of silence that feels alive. The swing was no longer moving. The chains hung straight down, perfectly still. Sex as if nothing had ever touched them. But she was still there, standing beneath the tree, watching. Her head tilted slowly, too slowly, like something inside her was adjusting to gravity. And then she smiled. Not a normal smile. Her mouth stretched. Sex 1.2 wider. Meta 1.2 and wider. Sex 1.5 until the skin at the corners began to tear. But there was no blood, only darkness. The ground beneath the swing cracked. Soil splitting open in thin lines. Grass turning black. From beneath the dirt, something shifted. A child's shoe pushed halfway through the soil. Small, worn, still tied. The houses around the park, every single window was glowing faintly now. And behind the curtains, shadows, watching, not moving, not blinking, just standing there. The phone slipped from trembling fingers. The screen was black, battery dead. But in the reflection, she was closer, much closer. Her eyes were no longer eyes, just hollow spaces, black spreading outward like spilled ink. And when she opened her mouth again, it wasn't a scream, it wasn't a whisper, it was silence. A silence so heavy it pressed against the lungs. Then, darkness. Morning came quietly. Sunlight touched the playground. The swings were still. The trees stood upright. Nothing broken. Nothing disturbed. Except, on the swing seat, deep scratch marks, like someone had tried to hold on for a very long time. And carved into the wood, a single message. She waits after midnight. And tonight, the swing will move again.